we decided that we were going to focus on this story of the greed and the reasons that people are being denied health care. The amazing team at Brave New Films then spent some time researching, going through the different insurance companies, and as many of you may know, unfortunately, and you'll see some of the other videos, this is not a unique example. It's endemic, it's systemic, it's built in, and so we found case after case, and ultimately went with this one first because what we were struck by was the $750 million that Helmsley is going to make in stock options. And that became the guiding search for us, which led to finding the mansions, getting photos of his homes. And then maybe the most critical phase is that, again, the skill set of the people at Brave New Films is what we call casting. And I don't mean that in a negative fashion, but it's finding these kinds of personal stories so that you can put a face on policy. Because ultimately, to move people, ultimately to affect them, you have to touch the heart, and then it can sometimes work its way to the brain. But you've got to touch the heart first. You can't start with numbers, no matter how big or how outrageous they are. And I think that's one of the things that over the years, we continue to learn, continue to get, we make mistakes and then we get better at it, which is finding those human stories that can make policy very clear. And when you see these stories, and then you see somebody who's making, who's got $750 million, it's pretty outrageous, and the problems in the system become pretty clear pretty quickly. So Christopher and Crystal and the team spent a lot of time searching for the right stories that, and unfortunately there were literally hundreds of them. And Christopher's a pretty even-keeled guy, and he said, at one point I remember he came to me and said, I'm so depressed doing this because person after person had these terrible stories, and some of them just wanted somebody to listen to them. They didn't even know or didn't have the hope of it being fixed. They just wanted to be heard in some way. So we developed this very large database of stories and started to select the ones that we felt would be the most effective in the video, and also people who would, despite the challenges, would be able to do press, because the way we maximize impact is creating a video and then working with our press department, who's quite amazing, about how and where we can amplify the message by getting additional media coverage, which we've been very successful over the years in doing. And again, we get better at it, but it's a way that it's not, so that there's the video, there's the press piece of it. Sometimes we get attacked by the, Walmart that spent a lot of time and money attacking us, which in the long run was actually very helpful because then even more people heard about the film. We didn't get so lucky, these guys. So with that, why don't we go to the second video, and then Jim will talk about that one.
I couldn't sleep, I couldn't lie down at night. I had to sit up in bed at night in order to be able to breathe. I would go to Cigna and they would tell me I had bronchitis and just give me medicine and send me home. No matter what kind of medicine they gave me, I just didn't get better. Then the Cigna director called me up and she told me that there was nothing wrong with me at all. But I got out a phone book and I called the doctor, and I was really distraught by this time. It was 9 o'clock at night, and I guess he could hear the pain and the terror in my voice. And he met me there, and I came with my film and my CAT scan, and he just put it in. It took exactly 30 seconds. He told me you have cancer, and he said the reason Cigna didn't want to give you your records is they've known way back for years that you have cancer, and they're not going to treat you.
A lot of money is made in this country off sick people.
I understand why these folks are fighting healthcare reform. The CEO of Cigna, Ed Hanway, the annual revenue, $19.1 billion, $292 million in net income. His salary, $12.2 million.
The reason I like Cigna was because toward the end of my career, I was able to see how insurance companies maximize profits by denying claims, denying care essentially, and by dumping the sick. It's all for the purpose of maximizing profits and enhancing shareholder value for wealthy investors. Sometimes people will forget that they had acne at some point during the past and not disclose that. And then later on, the insurance company can use that as a reason to cancel their insurance. Another way that insurance companies maximize their profits is by denying coverage, denying a claim.
Natalie Sarkeesian had been suffering from leukemia since she was 14. She died yesterday at the age of 17.
The family plans to sue because the company twice denied their daughter a liver transplant.
Cigna Health Corporation literally, maliciously killed her.
We had fair coverage, and guess what? Cigna gave her 0 chance to live, not even 1%. Deny, deny, deny. Why?
One of the things that investors and analysts look at is something called a medical loss ratio. And this is a measure of how much of every premium dollar that you contribute is actually paid out in medical claims by the insurance company. The less a company pays out in medical claims, the more money is available for executive salaries.
We've been married for 11 years. It was April 1st. She had talked about having a headache, and she went to lay down for a little while. She cried out my name in this really hoarse, strange voice. She felt like she was having a stroke. One of the things that was really amazing, if she wanted to answer yes, she would put her thumb up, and if she wanted to say no, she would keep her thumb down, and if she really meant no, she'd put her thumb under her finger. I was away from her for a few days. When I came back, I started asking Marion questions, and I couldn't get her to answer me. I said, Marion, is everything okay? And she put her thumb all the way down under there. And we went on for about 2 hours. As I finally got it out of her, I asked, are you afraid that I'm going to leave you? And she said, yes. And I leaned over and I started whispering our wedding vows into her ear. And I said, for better or worse, in sickness and in health. The case manager at the nursing home called me and was really upset. She said Cigna is wanting to discontinue therapy with her. The doctors called and appeals were denied. It has been a day in and day out fight. Every talk that I've had with them, it's been how can we wiggle off this hook.
By denying, the company can save quite a bit of money. So there's constant pressure on these executives to deny care or dump the sick just to make sure that there's enough money left over to maximize profits.
Is there a way to generate financial momentum and business momentum in the health insurance business?
We have had good success this year in doing that. Our membership's up about 5% in that overall flat market. We're taking market share, and it has to be profitable growth, so that's key as well.
Great homes, great lifestyle, but there's a price that people are paying for your lifestyle, Mr. Hanway. I wonder how many people there were like me who had to suffer to pay for all that.
I often would fly on one of the corporate jets. I was given gold-plated flatware to eat my lunch. I was sitting in a very spacious and luxurious leather chair. Someone's premiums were paying for my lunch on gold-trimmed china.
Very powerful. You know, I'm reminded when I watched this, I was speaking with Ruth right before we sat down, and she said, you know, it seems that the topics that Brave New takes on, Robert, is just prescient. It's you know, without Fox and with Walmart, and they seem to grow, expand, and it really is true, because that first video that you saw. this was Robert's idea, was to go after these health insurance companies, and nobody else wanted to do that. And in fact, we didn't get partners or funding from our usual sources from that. It was from the small donations, which means so much, you know, the $10, $20, $50 donations. It was after we did that first video that the large healthcare group, Healthcare for All Now, which encompasses many different organizations that have been fighting for reform, came on board and said, yeah, you know something, this is the way to go. We do need this villain, we do need this enemy, we do need people to see what they're fighting against and why we don't have reform. And we pushed on with this second video, and we were able to do this video and the subsequent ones because we did then get some very good funding from this coalition. And it does also come down to casting, and Wendell Potter, who you see in here, and whom I'm sure you've seen on all the mainstream media shows. This was the first interview, I think, that he had done, if not one of the first. And I feel it was because this video came out and Robert was on Ed Schultz and was on several different shows promoting this, that then he became the guy. Wendell became the whistleblower guy, the go-to guy, because he had the story. He was the one that was denying these people all of these years. So it was really powerful. And the other thing that happened too, I think, with this one was, Robert mentioned the press. The blogs are very important to us as well. So getting our pieces on Huffington Post or on Fire Dog Lake or on some of the other really big blogs, and even the smaller ones that all add up. I mean, usually we'll have 500 or 600 different blogs that will attach themselves to our video, and that helps to get the word out as well. It helps to grow the audience for us.
The other thing that in watching this I'm reminded of, which we sort of take for granted, but I think it's important to talk about it, that in any of the films, and you know, whether it's Walmart or the Sick for Profit, we don't go after the bad individual, and there are plenty of bad individuals. In Walmart, I remember over and over again saying to the team, I don't want to do bad boss stories. Everyone has had a bad boss. But that's not political, and that's not systemic. What I believe our job is to help people understand how the system works, using people, using poster children, men or women, to help tell the story, but then connecting the dots. So rather than say there's some miserable SOB who's screwing you, showing that it's based in the way the system works, not an accident. Maybe he's even nice to his wife or children, who knows. But this is the way the system is working, and that's why you are not being provided with care. And that's kind of a theme through all of the work that we do. And I think, you know, maybe one of the most important things in the long-term picture, so that people understand that these are things we need to take on above and beyond any individual person, and frankly, above and beyond any individual candidate and any individual and any party. So let's, did you want to take that?
No.
Okay, next one, please.
Hello, I'm Robert Reich. You probably heard a lot about something called the public option for healthcare reform. But many Americans don't feel they know exactly what it is. Imagine you live in a city like, say, Cleveland. Right now, in most of the city, you can choose from only a few plans. With the public option, you'd be able to choose between these plans and the public option. That's it. It's that simple. If the public option costs too much or doesn't provide good service, you stay with your private plan. And the public plan would not be subsidized by the government or have the government set the rules for anyone. If they aren't the best, they lose. That's not very scary or complicated at all, is it? The public option works because it would have the scale and authority to negotiate lower prices from healthcare providers. This would push the private insurers to get the same deals. The public option has to be big and national to do that. So don't be fooled by the idea of so-called cooperatives. They'd be too small and scattered to have the scale and bargaining leverage of a public option, and would therefore be designed to fail. Not surprisingly, there are powerful groups with a huge self-interest in seeing this reform fail. They are drug companies, insurance companies, and political operatives who are more concerned about a political fight than fixing a broken system. They're betting if they confuse and scare you enough about change, you'll decide to stay with a flawed system that everyone hates and costs too much. Look, it's the same old game. They want to scare you, and they have plenty of money and plenty of political partisans to do their dirty work. But they shouldn't be allowed to do this anymore, and you should have the right to choose a public insurance option if you want it. So what can you do right now? Make your voices heard. This is your last chance.
This is a tough day to be watching this particular video. This was interesting, at least to us. I don't know anybody else. It was different in the sense that Bob Reich had already done a version of this video. We saw it online. It had not received enough attention. And we took it, his video that had been filmed by somebody else, and it was just Bob talking, and then we added the graphics, and we added what's called B-roll, which are the shots you cut away to when somebody's talking, and used the very, very powerful distribution system that we've built. And I was just doing an interview yesterday. It's now had 160,000 views. You know, and this is a piece of substance talking about an issue that people really care about, and we're able to help. Didn't get a robust public option passed, but able to help keep the debate going and help people understand why it's important and what it means in very simple terms.
And I think what was important for us also was that we show the other side, that we explain to people what was happening. We were getting a lot of questions, and there's a lot of confusion out there because you get these little sound bites about what health reform is and what it isn't, and you don't understand it. And so the public option, there was a lot of questions from our members, and we thought that Bob did a great job of explaining it and wanted to make sure that people understood what it meant.
Also, we, you know, in terms of the talking about healthcare, it was from our point of view, because again, people who get, and hopefully, if all of you aren't on our either email list or Facebook or YouTube, please you know, contact us so we can get you the information. But we wanted to vary it so that people were getting different messages, all of which can help each of you in your work going out into the world and helping let people know what they need to know. So this was a variation, excuse me, from the first two pieces. So let's show the next piece, please.
WellPoint is the nation's largest managed care company, and they're wildly profitable.
Annual revenue, $61.3 billion.
I'd like to know where the premiums that we pay are going. Everything around me is affected by my back pain. I had a herniated disc. I was treated conservatively with physical therapy and medications, and I didn't get any better. I found a surgeon, and he recommended the artificial disc replacement. And they came back and said, sorry, it's no good because it's experimental and investigational, and this is despite the fact that it was FDA approved.
It was, you know, disheartening to have to take benefits away. I felt very bad about it. I mean, it seemed like almost like a failure on our part. Plans got more and more expensive, and we had fewer and fewer benefits. And it got to a point where some of them went on with their spouses, and some just don't have any coverage at all at this point.
And now insurance giant Anthem Blue Cross and Blue Shield wants to hike its rates.
The rate increase would be an average of 18% for their health choice.
Anthem requested that the state guarantee that they make 3% profit off of just 12,000 people. The state said no, and Anthem decided to sue the state over that decision.
Anthem is wholly owned by WellPoint. I don't know how much Anthem is shelling out, but, you know, lots of money is being spent in legal fees, which is obviously money that is not going to provide benefits to policyholders.
It's just crazy to me that people who are supposed to be providing health care are in fact only taking care of a few select people, and it has nothing to do with health. It has all to do with profit.
I woke up with severe back pain one day. For me, it's just like a knife in my glutes and my hamstrings. Even with the medications, I can't get away from it. It was my doctor's decision that I should get the surgery. But the insurance company came right in between my doctor and me and said no.
We don't make very much more than any of our employees. In fact, sometimes we make less than our employees because our first priority is to make sure that the payroll goes to the employees.
Part of their lawsuit is crying hardship, that in a recession they need more money too. That's clearly not true. They exceed every possible measure of financial health for a company, and so really the only justification for this lawsuit is just pure greed.
They have the audacity to go after the taxpayers of Maine, who are all struggling, so that they can make a guaranteed 3% profit. Just seems absurd.
I'd like to know where the premiums that we pay are going.
Well, it also seems pretty ridiculous. I don't think that anybody is worth $9 million a year.
They spend nearly $10 million a year in lobbying fees. So this is $10 million of premiums that have been overcharged to members and patients across the country, using that money to hire lobbyists so that WellPoint can pass laws that's bad for its members. It certainly raises the question of bribery, whether those dollars are buying votes. When you get a letter from your insurance company, there's always going to be a list of excuses. Here's why we're raising your rates. The cost of health care, prescription drugs, etc., etc. What they don't list is we need to make more profits because Wall Street expects us to. Angela Braley needs a new Cadillac, and we're going to raise rates for that. And frankly, we need to raise money to spend on lobbying campaigns to lock you into healthcare debt for the rest of your life.
We're supposed to be taking care of people, and it's not what we're doing now. We're just taking care of the people that operate the insurance companies.
They care about their shareholders and not the American public.
Incredible power of the insurance lobby. They are, after all, driven by profit.
They're spending billions of dollars right now on lobbying. It's really a down payment for the vote that the insurance companies want.
So this was now about 2 months or maybe 2.5 months into our work, and we kept escalating. And in this particular case, the video was used by our friends at SEIU and HCAN, the coalition that Jimmy was talking about, the Healthcare Coalition. And they organized a series of actions on the ground. One of the things we're always working on is making sure the videos have a life beyond online. One way is, we've talked about, the press. Another way is with groups who are working on the ground. So our friends, in coordination with us, knowing when it was coming out, used the videos, organized demonstrations around the homes of some of the healthcare heads of the insurance companies, and were able to then get another wave of media and additional focus on this particular story. And I think they had 20, 30, 40 actions in different states that were targeted both because of who the head of the insurance company was, and also states where the members of the House or the senators' vote was in question around health care. This was a way to drive the issue home right into the state. In our casting process, whenever possible, we would also try to be strategic, thinking about who are the key senators or who are the key members of the House, where are they from, and could we find a personal story from their state or their district, so that when the media begins to build, you have an additional powerful impact on ultimately trying to move some of these people in terms of trying to get them to do the right thing. We have one more? Oh, okay. Let's show the next one, please.
Hey, Stretchy, what are you paying for health insurance? Well, how much are you paying a month in diapers? You got 20 bucks in your pocket? Then you can afford our Blue Options insurance policy.
And cut.
Seriously? Hi, my name's Andy, and I sell health insurance. Blue Options has just added a bunch of lawyers. I was the spokesman for Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Florida. Call me a spokesjerk. We're people who make money by selling you things that you don't need, and we're telling you lies. It's cheaper than your cell phone bill. Sure, if your cell phone bill's $400 a month. American healthcare's a mess, and everybody knows it. But no matter how bad it gets, insurance companies trot out their spokesjerks to charm you into buying their insurance and avoiding a public option.
We're ready for Andy.
They, by which I mean I, make money by standing in the way of reform. It's time for change. That's why I'm calling on leaders of the spokesjerk industry. The FreeCreditReport.com guy, the ShamWow dude, and Senator Pelson. Recipient of big money from insurance companies to lead us. To walk away from their cash cows and tell the American people the truth. And us spokesjerks will be fine. There's plenty of room in entertainment for someone who once tried to sell you the worst product in American history, private health insurance.
So that was something different for us as well. Andy actually contacted us. He was a fan of our work. He had done some previous videos of his own and wanted to work with us to tell his story. He was somebody who was paid for several years to be a spokesjerk, as he puts it, for Blue Cross, and wanted to make sure that the American public knew what they were buying. You know, as Robert said previously, we do try to mix it up a little. Obviously, those first couple of videos were very heavy, and this one is a little more humorous. And another way to get a segment of our audience involved. At the end, you saw you should vote on to see where Andy should work on next. And it's something that we do, those sorts of contests is something to do to get the younger men and women involved and to give them a chance to voice you know, their artisticness. We'll do contests like bumper stickers and different things like that to get those people involved. And there was one other thing about that video that was going to come on. I can't remember now.
Well, it was a good use of Facebook for those. How many here are on
lawyers.
Facebook?
I want to talk about lawyers.
Oh, good. Okay, so we did a couple of things with this. Andy reached out to us through Facebook initially, number one, and number two, we housed it on Facebook so that people could easily comment, enter the contest, and it was another way of, on our distribution today, it's not like it used to be you turn on CBS or NBC. Obviously, we have an email list, we have a YouTube channel, we have a Facebook presence, we just got an iPhone application, so we're constantly, we have almost 100 cable access stations, so we're constantly developing different ways to expand our reach. We're about to start a bilingual effort on Facebook, Cuéntame, that we really want to get the mayor to come and do a piece for. Again, continuing to use distribution creatively, in the theory that if you do something, it's useless unless you build a large audience at the same time.
So the thing that I remember from this was a piece where we had to talk to many lawyers many times because we were using part of a Blue Cross commercial because Andy had worked for Blue Cross. We do a lot of what they call fair use, where you're allowed to use other people's work if it's under fair use. There were things that, you know, this commercial or this piece went through many different iterations because there were things that the lawyers were like, okay, we shouldn't do this and you should do that, and you know, different things. We try to do everything to the letter of the law. We of course also push the envelope, but you know, the purpose of what we do is to make sure many people see it, and we're not, you know, ending up in courts for the next months or years.
Many lawyers.
It's time.
It's time.
It's time. It's time for a change.
Health insurance? We need some new thinking.
It's time for someone to take responsibility.
So having just had about enough with these corporations, we decided to go for the jugular and allow people to participate, as Jim was saying before. One of the great things about doing this work as opposed to the traditional way is the involvement of audiences. So we've had activists and people online particularly. We get literally tens of thousands of comments on some of these videos, and then when we have these contests like this one, come up with a better line for Cigna, we knew it was causing them a fair amount of grief. One thing about corporations, they spend an enormous amount of money on their brand. So if you can find legal ways to question the brand, they need to respond in some way. It was one of the reasons that Walmart got so upset and came after us so heavily. You know, they were spending $1 zillion a day, whatever it was, and here we were attacking the very core of who they were. So it was a similar idea with Cigna, and it was an idea as a way to continually involve more people, and also have people, again, encourage them to pass it around, because in passing it around, we build up a larger group of online activists who then are available to push campaigns in directions that need pushing.
This is, we call it hacking, you know, when we hack ads, and we've done it before. And we also mash up material, and we actually have a new program called Brave New Educators, where we are encouraging young students and filmmakers to do the same with our material. We've actually given them everything. It's a pilot program right now, everything that we've done with Rethink Afghanistan, and asked them to create their own pieces out of the work that we've shot and the videos that we've created. And actually they've come up with some really amazing products. The first semester just recently ended, and hopefully we're going to post a lot of that, right, on Rethink? Yeah, so if you go to rethinkafghanistan.com, you'll be able to see what the students did with the work that we originally created.
So I think that was the last one? Yes? What is that? There's one more? So if you have any questions, why don't you maybe just, we have cards, we can collect them and pass them forward, and we can start to go through them. You know, again, it's, I don't know where everybody is on this, but certainly it's not a day of joy over healthcare at the moment. So seeing these things at least only reminds me how important it is not just to fight the specific, but to fight the general, because if we only fight the individual battle, then whether you win or lose is totally about the individual. But if in the course of any issue we can raise the fundamentals, in this case, why should profit be built into healthcare? It's not built into the fire department, it's not built into the police department, and it shouldn't be built into healthcare. If we can raise those fundamentals, over time they will, you know, whether we lose one battle, it's never fun to lose or to get a watered down version, but we're doing a job of helping make people aware, and in time those things, I think, do come through.
I'll ask the questions. You want me to say something? I'm sorry. I was reading questions, I wasn't listening. Okay, so I'm just going to read the question. From your research, did you come across any companies that weren't so greedy as the big ones mentioned in the DVD?
Well, we didn't do, I believe there are smaller companies that are better, but our research was looking for the worst criminals, so we would not be good ones to ask about that.
Tell us more about Brave New Educators. Where is it? Who can get involved? Well, right now, it's a pilot program, as I said. USC just did a class, and Claremont is the other college. Occidental. I'm sorry. Occidental is the other college that that did a class. So right now, if you go to the Brave New Films or the Brave New Foundation site, actually, you can click and learn more about Brave New Educators, or you can email me directly at jim@bravenewfilms.com. Because it is a pilot program, what we're doing right now is fundraising to expand it. We want to be able to get it into more colleges. We think we've come up with a method that's can be replicated, and it's really cool actually how we're able to upload into this computer system all of the clips that we've done, so that people can actually punch in certain keywords, and they can get the different scenes where those keywords are, and then be able to use that to create their own pieces.
And anybody who is a teacher or educator, again, email Jim, or you can go to the site and get signed up, because we're trying to build a core of 100 or 200 teachers who would be the fundamental basis for. It's as much work to do it in one class as it is to do it for 50 classes. So that's also our approach as we go to foundations and to funders. Here's a way to make all this extraordinary material available, and just think if there were 200 classes teaching Rethink Afghanistan, and each, with 200 teachers, each one has 3-4 classes. It's an amazing impact that one can have that we're very hopeful about.
Okay. Has there ever been an effort to create a fund contributed to by the public, the purpose of which is to somehow buy Congress critters to vote our way instead of that of UHC, Walmart, etc.? Money was collected, a hell of a lot of money was collected from the public to successfully elect President Obama.
Well, I guess the answer is yes and maybe. There are, the ability to raise funds online has fundamentally changed some of the elite control of the system, which is a positive. One could argue that maybe more of that needs to be done around issues rather than candidates, which would be my argument. But I think that we're at such an early stage with online fundraising that when we have this discussion next year and the year after, things will be very different. And for sure, organizations are getting out there, like ours, Media Matters, others, that are raising money online to deal with the issues, not just with the candidates.
Yeah, I think that it's very important, and Robert always says that change doesn't come from the White House, or change doesn't come from Congress, it comes from the people. So it's very important for us not to focus too much on the legislators, and make sure that we're able to build our own momentum first in order to force that social change upon them. Next question. What will be your next big venture? Any documentaries about environmental issues?
We're not planning to do anything on the environmental stuff because there's so much being done there by so many groups. And again, we always evaluate from a couple of points of view. One is telling a story that's not being told, and so much of the environmental stuff is really being told. And so that's the specific answer. We're going to stay with Afghanistan for a while. The film is finished. I hope each of you will go to the website and get a copy and screen it. But we have not been successful in stopping the war. There's lots and lots of work to be done, so we're going to be spending as much time and resources as we possibly can. There's no doubt that if this war continues and escalates, it will kill all of the hopes and dreams of the Obama administration, and all of the hopes and dreams that many people in this room have probably worked for. So it's a critical step that we see, and we'll be spending lots of energy on that. And we'll be continuing to deal with the fundamental economic inequities, whether it's through the healthcare system, or it's through private equity, or it's through low-wage workers, looking again at the fundamentals of the society that allow people to make zillions of dollars an hour and other people's labor to be exploited. And we'll be doing that in a variety of ways under our War on Greed banner.
How effective are you? Is there any way you can track what people are doing as a result of watching one of your videos?
How effective? Well, if you ask my mother, again, it's hard to know exactly, because I believe that it's never one thing. I don't think it's one video that changes the world, but I think it's one video in combination with a news story, in combination with somebody you've talked to, in combination with a personal experience, so that it takes a village, and I think it takes various pieces to make this happen. What we can track, as Jim was saying when we started the evening, we can track the number of people who watch, the number of people who make a comment, the number of people who pass along a video. Those are ways of measuring engagement, which I would argue are more important than just eyeballs, because eyeballs today are less meaningful. We spent a lot of time also studying marketing. There's some fascinating, really smart marketing people going on. And there's whole different theories of marketing today called permission marketing, where they ask your permission, which is online, rather than yell at you, which is what television does. So permission marketing, by its nature, tends to be more successful. It's a long answer to say we have certain measurements. None of them could prove that we were the sole force in defeating John McCain. But the fact that we got a video that talked about his homes, that led to a reporter asking a question saying, "How many homes do you have?" To which McCain replied, "I don't know, ask my staff." That was an impact. I don't know how you put a number on it, but it was an impact for sure.
And it is similar, I'll add, when we frame a video, when we talk about certain things like Rethink Afghanistan, the number of times now that we see that phraseology used is phenomenal. Everybody's talking about rethinking Afghanistan. And when we started in March, we like to think that we helped to coin that phrase. I mean, the same with Cost Plus and Blackwater and everything that was talked about with Iraq for Sale, war profiteering. People weren't talking about that. People didn't understand what that meant until the film came out.
But ultimately, it's all of you who become the device that make it effective. Again, we can create it. Hopefully, we're on the right subject. We tell the story in the right way. But if people are not engaged and decide to use the video as a pass along or get involved, then there's nothing that we're going to do that's going to be successful.
Generally, how does, I can't read this. Who is paying? Does BNF's does their remuneration go up with increased viewership?
Can I answer?
Well, we're not a lot of people that put their videos on YouTube now do get money for views because they allow advertising to be on their videos. We don't do that because you don't choose the advertising, and we don't want a corporate sponsor on our video whose practices we don't agree with. So we really do rely on basically three revenue streams. Foundations that give us grants for specific work, major donors who are angels and give us large checks, and then our small donors who are the $5, $10, $20, $50, $100 donors who are really the base of the work that we do and what allows us to continue to work.
And Jim and I spend a lot of time fundraising. It's become a big part of the job in order to be able to keep us going. And this last year was brutal, obviously, with the economy, and people at every level were hit. The people who previously gave us $10 gave $5. People who had given us, $100,000 gave us $50. It was just the foundations all were hit. So it was everyone has, I'm sure, their own experiences about the year, but the fundraising is the thing that certainly gives us pause and has both of us thinking 24/7 about different ways to be able to fundraise.
Does the film change over time? Do you re-edit the piece based on responses? I'll take that. Once you see it on YouTube, that's what it is. It's done. But to get it to that point, to pry it out of Robert's hands, takes a long time. You'll see most of these are shorts, but you're talking about these are 17, 18, 20, 25 iterations. That's how many cuts there are of these pieces. Robert is never satisfied, and I'm sure that he would redo it if he had more time. But luckily, we have specific deadlines for him, and we're like, we gotta do this now.
Yes, that's totally accurate. With Rethink Afghanistan was actually the only one that was slightly different because the versions of each section are posted online or posted on YouTube, but when it came time to do the finished film, I was able to go back in and rework them and change them and cut them. I was in heaven because you always learn something, and with a little bit of time you see things. It's almost like having different eyes than when you were in the midst of it. So the finished Rethink Afghanistan, the film, is quite different than each of the sections that are, at least in my eyes, it's quite different, that are posted online.
Okay, this is the last question. Are you going to cover the California budget mess, specifically the high proportion of money to prisons?
Ah, yes.
Well, Jim and I have been talking for 2 years about wanting to do something about prisons, the judicial system. We've not been successful in raising the funds. We've gone to foundations, we've gone to individuals. We'd love to do it. There are certain stories that our skill set are not right for if they're essentially numbers driven or they're wonky stories. Prison is a human story. The judicial system is a human story of injustice. It's perfect for what we do, but we've not found the resources to do it so far.
After you fill out your evaluation form.
Oh, getting graded? Oh no!